this time next year will represent the greatest shift in the upper structure of quarterbacks in the NFL you want to attach something, I'm not going to say 40 years, but, you want to give it 12, 15, 20 years. I'm prepared to do that because as I look at this list here, first of all, Andrew Luck is going to shoot up to 1 or 2. Yeah. Andrew Luck is back. So number 6 here is ridiculous, right? In my opinion. Phillip Rivers. Now,
yeah, he's got to.
I got to start tapping the brakes on Rivers a little bit here.
I was going to say he's either going to win a championship and go like 3 or 4 up, or he's going to fall off the top 10.
And what started to happen, exactly, and what started to happen, and I have always been, as you have as well, a huge, devout Rivers supporter, where we get into that championship article, and you can't, argument, it's not fair to penalize him, and you're a product of what's around you, and all that stuff, which is true. But last year in weeks 15, 16, and this went relatively unnoticed, week 15, 16, and 17, Phillip Rivers threw 2 picks in each week.
That's right.
So is that just a horrendous end to the season, or is that somebody getting a little old as the season goes on, and that trickles into 2019?
Look, football's an attrition sport, BT. We talk about this all the time. It's not just over the years, but it's certainly in a season. And it's funny because one of the things that you look for in great players is how do you play as you're going down the stretch, right? As you get closer to the postseason and you have these important games to determine seeding and or, whether or not you're basically making it or not. And in Phillip Rivers, because he's, probably because he's a little bit older, there was some, I don't know, some slack off from how good he's been. Some of it may not be on him. Like the pieces around him may have been, they may have been the fault. But the really great ones, like Tom Brady, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what's around you. He's raising his game to be elite.
He's always been that way.
And everybody goes with him, regardless. And so as much as you can put it on some of his teammates, whether they're young or whether they got hurt or whatever it may have been, ultimately it always comes back to the quarterback because lifting the game of even the guy who could be a free agent who has to fill a role. That's his job.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. And as I look at this list even more, like I really start to wonder, even though you and I disagreed it was an inbounds, out of bounds, what this year holds for the Steelers. I'm sorry. Big Ben is starting to look old, starting to look creaky. Now, I know you can say, well, he's always been anything but nimble, always bigger. And I get that. But eventually, Big Ben is gonna hit a wall. Eventually, Drew Brees is gonna hit a wall. Eventually, Tom Brady is going to hit a wall. And Rivers maybe is beginning to hit the wall, as Eli already did. Yeah. So I look at this list again. It's just it's a subjective compilation. It's a July talking point. It's nothing definitive. But I want to reiterate. I believe, at least as I look at this now, as I look at the list, and this is on CBSSports.com, in there, and they used a bunch of different metrics to quantify this, the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL going into the season. I believe that next year's list will, if CBSSports.com puts out a similar article, and I'm sure they will look radically different and represent a shifting in the NFL that we haven't seen in a long time, and I'll tell you why. Baker Mayfield's going to be on this list. Sam Darnold's going to be on this list. Carson Wentz is going to absolutely be back on this list.
Wentz definitely should and will be, I think.
So those are 3 names. Now, maybe Brady hangs on for 1 more year. Maybe Big Ben squeezes 1 more year. Maybe Rivers shows at the final 3 weeks, okay, I had a little soreness in my shoulder. Didn't tell anybody because I'm tough as nails. I'm healthy. I go out and I destroy 2019.
Yeah,
I mean, that could happen too.
But that also could be a product of being 38 years old.
It could.
That's true. You just don't recover.
No, I hear you. But even Andrew Luck, who's 28, has been banged up. 29.
True. But Andrew Luck, when Andrew Luck was hurt, he didn't play. But when you're young, when you're older, and you still feel
he played early on through it.
True.
If you remember, you go back to I got you.
But when you're older and you're still trying to prove something, because he's still trying to prove something, Phillip Rivers. Like he doesn't.
What is he trying to prove outside? Is it just this? Is it just the chance? That's
championship. That's it.
So
yeah.
So that is so unfair to him.
Of course it is.
Look at his career.
But if you're banged up and you're 37 last year. And your season's gone pretty good, right? You're damn near 70% completion percentage, and you're throwing for well over 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns. That was the ultimate end of the season. But I'm saying, like, if you're in week 14 and you got a little bit of stiffness in your shoulder, your body's just started to break down a little bit because you're 37 years old. What are you gonna tell the coach? Hey, you know what? I need to take a week here.
He's not.
Exactly.
No competitor
So
is.
you have to fight through it because it's all about making it to the postseason and giving your best shot at a championship. So, I mean, you hate to say that it's desperation for him, but it kind of is, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's running out of time. We're not saying it's his last year. And here's something else to think about, okay? Like, I don't know, when Namath was on his last leg. We could even go more recently when Peyton was throwing wobbly ducks his last year.
Yeah.
So resiliently coming back, valiantly coming back from the neck injury. But the last year for Peyton was ugly.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
but he had a great defense.
No doubt about it. But the discernible drop off in play. He just looked like he looked like a guy in the parking lot who had 7 beers.
Yeah,
like going to watch the game.
To throw it.
Who was tailgating.
His deep ball was nothing.
His intermediate ball wasn't that good. I mean, it was. I'm not trying to disparage an all-time legend, but we know Peyton's last year was tough to watch. I'd love to, and we could go through this right here, put our heads together. I would love to come up with a comparable era where so many all-time, undeniably transcendent, like you cannot refute that statement, even if you hate everything, where you have Brady, you have Breeze, and you have Big Ben, and we'll throw Rivers in there as well. He's not champion. 4 absolute. I know Rivers might have to wait a second to get it all. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
3 undeniable Hall of Famers with multiple championships. Very well might be entering their last season of being still incredibly productive. When else has that happened in NFL history?
Yeah, and by the way, you're excluding Eli, who doesn't fit that list. But he's won 2 championships. My point is, he's also coming to the end.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of...
Has this ever happened in NFL history before? I mean Sammy Baugh, I'm like just throwing old names out there. Like, how many... When Joe Montana got old...
Not. Probably not.
Because Joe Montana, who else was getting old with him that was on that level? I mean, maybe one guy? Yeah. I mean, Aikman was. I love Troy. Troy's not. Yeah, but Troy's not Tom Brady or Drew Brees. He's not.
And even if he was forced out because of concussions.
Same with Steve Young.
Exactly.
So we never got that slow, gradual. Well, he's all right. He's just not quite as good as he used. Got popped too many times. Unfortunately, he's got to step away.
Yeah, that early 2000s, man, it was a great era for the bringing in of quarterbacks into the league. And
really was.
You think about it, it's amazing.
Yep.
I mean, Matt Ryan's is on the young edge of that.
And Matt's what, 30?
31, I believe.
He might be actually. I think he's 39. I think Matt's 32 now. Matt might even be 33. Boy, the end of this conversation is gonna be 38. How old is he? Matt Ryan, how old's Matt?
34. 35 in March.
What? Oh, so he's already 35 seasons?
That went quick.
Oh, 30. This is his 34th season.
Still.
Next year's 35.
But we started saying he was 30.
Yeah. He just feels like he's
now.
Younger because
he does. He looks younger.
Because of how he looks.
Exactly. He looks a little bit younger. So I'm going to throw that out there. I would love for somebody to educate me if I'm missing something, if we're missing something. But I don't know that we've ever had such a group of all-time greats possibly staring, I don't want to use the cliff thing that Max used with Brady, but basically that analogy where they, the next step could be one where they plummet.
Yeah.
You don't know.
The good thing is it feels like there's a good group of young quarterbacks that are right here to take the mantle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is not always the case.
Usually it's not the case.
Sometimes you go through these, I don't want to say decades, but at least years where you're like, all right, who's the great quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah, let's do an exercise. Pick a year. We'll do this real quick before we take a break on Tiki and Tierney. Pick out a year.
97.
Oh, 97.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, Tiki's rookie season.
That was my rookie season.
1997.
The NFC East quarterbacks.
Look at everybody.
It was Dave Brown. It was, I'm trying to think who it was for the Cowboys in 1997.
97. I got it here. 97.
I know Emmett
Cowboys
was still playing, but I don't know who the quarterback was.
Let's see. Okay, so
it was pre-Donovan with Philadelphia.
Here's the passing leaders for 1997. Marino, all-time great. Bledsoe, all-time pretty good.
Yeah.
Warren Moon, all-time great. CFL as well.
Bledsoe was great. People forget that.
Well, he was great for a couple of years. Yeah. No question. I mean,
he was in the
Parcells
Super Bowl.
let him throw the ball a lot.
And he was in the Super Bowl before.
I know. But then he went to Buffalo, Dallas. He wasn't quite the same.
I'm talking about when he was in New England.
I know.
He was in the Super Bowl before Tom Brady won the Super Bowl the next year.
That's true.
That's
true.
That.
Yeah, I know. That's true. Warren Moon, all-time great. Brett Favre, all-time great. Now, here we go. Scott Mitchell. Scott Mitchell was the 5th. Well, that's in terms of completion. So obviously threw the ball quite a bit for Detroit that year. Then you've got Jeff George, who was a transient pain in the behind. I mean, he bounced around and nobody liked him, even though he had a rocket. Let's see. Eric Kramer bounced around, nothing special, all due respect. Brad Johnson bounced around, all due respect, nothing special. Mark Brunell, at that point, very talented.
Yep.
Neil O'Donnell, whatever. Tony Banks, whatever.
Tony Banks was Baltimore?
He was with St. Louis at that point, the Rams.
Louis,
yeah. Cordell Stewart, if you take away the gadgets and whatever as a quarterback. I hear you, but I'm saying just a quarterback. Obviously, Elway. Yeah. But, I just named 6 or 7 guys. Trent Dilfer, the late, great Steve McNair, Todd Collins for Buffalo, Gus Frerotte, Chris Chandler, Kerry with Carolina,
right? Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh with the Colts. There's a lot of Elvis Gerback, Jeff Blake. A lot of guys, Danny Cannell, Ty Detmer.
That's
wow.
a season where you come in saying, who are the great quarterbacks in the NFL?
That's right.
And you get 5.
You picked a good year. And I'm sure there's years that would maybe challenge that, but I'm sure most models more accurately reflect 97 than they wouldn't. Yeah. So just something to consider. This could be a transformational year for quarterback play in the NFL.